Greetings, mortal, and welcome to my first video that is not about the Fly.io. Subscribe, because this will almost definitely do terribly since I can't post it on the Discord. I would make another Defly video for my regular audience, but there's only so much I can say about one game, and I'm not planning on making this channel focus solely on a title that about 20 people regularly play. I need to do something different at some point, and oh look, right now qualifies at some point. Now I should probably get started on the actual video before you get tired of my rambling and leave. Magic the Gathering, or MTG, is a card game where you play cards, and these cards, once played, usually do things. I say usually because WotC, the company that made MTG, has printed their fair share of both dogshit do-nothings and cards that don't even need to be played to do their aforementioned things. If you're wondering why these cards exist, well, there are almost 30,000 of them motherfuckers. There's going to be something goofy in there somewhere. And while not all of them are part of Arena, the digital version that'll actually let me play MTG on this channel, there's still more than enough stupidity to go around. Now that we know that we are mostly playing cards that do things, we need to figure out what we want these things to be. You usually start the game with 7 cards in hand and usually with 20 life points, and you usually die when your life hits 0. I say usually because if you don't like your hand, you can deal yourself a new one and put a card back for each time you've done that. I also say usually because there are different formats where you start with different amounts of life, and finally, I say usually because there are cards that exist that can keep you alive while your life is at or even below 0, or make someone lose without caring about their life total. Ignoring all that shit, the best strategy is to reduce your opponent's life total to 0 while maintaining your own life total above 0. This is a tried and true strategy and used by many of the most experienced players. Each different deck has different ways of accomplishing this life reducage, and most are built to maximize the consistency at which these ways end up wasing. In most formats, you have to have at least 60 cards in your deck, usually, and no more than 4 copies of each card, usually, and I say usually because you get the fucking point, the game is stupid. This means that every motherfucker not playing Yorion plays exactly 60 cards and maxes out the copies of each of them. Now, this would normally be the part where the YouTuber dude tells you the basics about all the game mechanics and how they work, but I don't have the time, patience, or energy to spend crafting an essay describing the bajillion types of cards or steps in a turn to someone who probably doesn't give a fuck or already knows. If you're actually interested in learning how to play, I can make that video later, but this one is literally just a giant segue into future videos with a bit of ranting thrown in. With that out of the way, let's get to the stuff my pea-brain can actually explain. There are 4 different main styles of play, with the defining feature of most of them being how the deck wants to win. The first is Aggro, also known as Meow. Their objective is to vomit their whole hand onto the board as fast as humanly possible and win faster than humanly possible. It's not a question of if or when you'll take damage, it's a question of how much and how soon you'll die from it. The downside of this strategy is that for each turn the game lasts past turn 5, the likelihood of the aggro deck winning decreases exponentially. On the opposite end of the spectrum, you have control, which is entirely centered around stopping the opponent from playing the game. In a normal match, the average control player will counter almost every single spell you cast, destroy, exile, bounce, or put back in your library almost anything you manage to get on the board, and their win condition is either a Hall of the Storm Giants, Approach of the Second Sun, or me leaving because I've had enough of their bullshit. Every single control deck is optimized to piss the opponent off as much as possible and to keep the board clear so as to idiot-proof it for the Neanderthal pilot. Games end in concessions the second they no longer have the resources to completely ruin your fun. It's basically playing against the kid who flips the table the minute they aren't light years ahead of everyone else. They also resolve triggers slower than Mitch McConnell resolves his train of thought, and apparently slower than I resolve my train of thought, because that was terrible, making sure that even quick games feel longer than your 9th grade history class. TLDR, control players don't play Magic the Gathering, they play let's sit around and do nothing till one of us gets tired of it. Okay, I admit, this isn't quite true of all control decks, but it definitely applies to a lot of them, and their image is definitely not improved by the dumbasses that make up most of their players. Resting comfortably in between these 2 extreme play styles is midrange. Midrange likes to use all their resources, build up value, and win by crushing the opposition with the weight of their creatures' big booties. From this description, you might think this is the most sane archetype I've described so far, but you will be wrong, because once they get to their 7+ drops, get fucked is the biggest understatement of the year. It is probably, however, the fairest archetype, because while it does threaten to inevitably run you over with a dinosaur the size of Mount Everest, it both lets you play your spells and gives you time to play them. This fairness makes it the least popular playstyle in the try-hard populated 60-card formats, and usually means I get shat on whenever I try to play it. It's a lot more popular and powerful in the friendlier Commander and Brawl formats, which is nice, but that's not what I'm going to be playing most of the time. Now you might be wondering, hey Lord Lazy, you've already done quick decks, slow decks, and medium decks, what other deck even is there? Well my friend, let me introduce you to the funnest playstyle in the entire game, Combo. Combo decks can be a lot of different things, but all of them try to either find a certain set of cards that basically just win you the game when you put them together, or get to a point where you can freely dig through your deck until you find a win con or enable one. Some combo decks are simple and not at all involved, but others are so ridiculous it's hard to figure out how they even do anything. No matter what though, every game you lose to a combo will start with, wait, what the fuck? And end with, oh. When you're building a combo deck, what you're building is a super specialized glass cannon with the sole purpose of breaking the game. By all logic, I'm not supposed to be able to make Ashnod sacrifice an infinite army of zombies to give a vampire enough art supplies to paint someone to death, but it's still something I can do, and do it I shall. My favorite part about combo is it takes the restrictions regular decks have to play around and throws them all out the window. Playing to play spells? No thanks. Losing the game? Nah, I think I'll pass. Lots of combos don't even need the most awesome of cards to work. In the other playstyles that I mentioned, you're kinda just stuck playing the best few decks from each of them unless you want to get absolutely beaten to death, but there are many, many, many different combos. Of course, not all combos are created equal, but it's still a lot leveler of a playing field. The only bad thing about using these kinds of decks is that most of the decks you play will fold to a single removal or counterspell unless you have a way to stop it. To summarize them each in one word: aggro, zoom; control, bullshit; stompy, boom; combo, superior bullshit. To summarize this video in one sentence, I'm going to be making Magic the Gathering videos now, and I'm stalling for time with this one because I'm too lazy to actually finish any of them. The video's supposed to end now. Can we play the music? Oh, right. I have nothing more left to say, so like and subscribe, and have a good day.